Do you ever find yourself running out of creative ideas? Well, a producer's block is something that all of us can experience from time to time, but you can find inspiration from the most simple things. For example, in this video, I will be showing you how I turned this very basic sample of my voice into something that is now taking shape as its own track idea. Of course, having the right tools at your disposal goes a long way in sparking that creativity. So before we get into production techniques, I will be using limited time only bundles from iZotope and Native Instruments. All three of these bundles are currently on sale at just $49 each. So I will be using effects from iZotope Creative Mix Bundle, which features VocalSynth, Stutter Edit, Neoverb, and Neutron for elements. I will also use instruments from Native Instruments Electronic Dance Bundle, which features Track 1, Utopia, and Feel It. And to add some creative effects to this track, I will be using the Native Instruments Saturation Bundle, which features Driver, Supercharger, Bite Dirt, and Freak plugins. You can grab each of these bundles via the links in the description box below, and let's get into the rest of this video. So I really wanted to turn my initial vocal sample into a synth, and what better way to do that than with VocalSynth. So VocalSynth has been one of my favorite plugins for a while. I've been using it in many different applications, not just on vocals, and it's great for creating some interesting and unusual effects as well as vocoded harmonies. On board of this plugin, you will find 5 modules. So these are BioVox, CompuVox, TalkBox, Vocoder, and Polyvox. And each of these modules is fully customizable. So if you open them up, for example, I could change vowel sounds in BioVox. I can change the wavetable of my oscillators, I can apply different effects within each module, and I can use all of them in conjunction or any combination of these modules. VocalSynth also features a host of powerful effects as well as pitch functionality and harmonies. Let's take a listen to some examples as I'm applying it to the original audio sample. These sound great, but what I really wanted to do is create some chords by adding some harmonies. So to set this up, I need to create a new software instrument track in Logic, then go to AU MIDI controlled effects and select VocalSynth. I then need to put VocalSynth into MIDI mode and set up the audio sample as my sidechain. And now every single time my vocal is present, I can start playing in some harmonies, which will be triggered by VocalSynth. So this is the sound that I ended up going with, and it's quite simple. It's just 2 chords at the moment, but that's fine. I sometimes like to start off simple because it allows a lot of space for more layers and melodies to be added, and we definitely will be adding more. So next, I wanted to play around with Stutter Edit and see some of the effects that are available there. So Stutter Edit is great for adding some rhythmic, glitchy effects to your sounds. And you can use it in auto mode or MIDI mode. So very similar as the setup I just used for VocalSynth. If I set it up in MIDI mode on a software instrument track and then set up my audio or the vocoded chords, for example, as the sidechain input, I can start creating some really interesting effects. effect by simply playing in the MIDI notes, and each of the notes will correspond to a stutter effect. So there's a library of effects already preloaded on Stutter Edit, which you can tweak to your liking and also use a combination of different onboard effects, create and program your own stutters, use the buffer effects and more. Or you can also save your own stutters from scratch and load them into the empty banks, which will correspond to each MIDI note. So that means I can also use various different stutters throughout the track and have them come in and out as I want to. Whereas if I use Stutter Edit in auto mode, then it will start playing the stutters as soon as I press play. So here are some examples of applying Stutter Edit to my initial vocoded chords. I like some of these effects, but I might apply it to another element later down the line. I can choose from more gentle stutters just by tweaking some of the effects. And I could also apply Stutter Edit to my whole track. So to do that in Logic, I would have to set up an aux and then send all of my tracks to that aux. Then I would need to again set up Stutter Edit as an AU MIDI controlled effect, and then set up my aux as the sidechain input. And that way you can easily remix your whole track and add some interesting rhythmic effects to it. Okay, I'm quite happy with these initial chords, so let's add a groove and a bass line and just get a feel for the track. So track 1 is another great plugin to instantly start creating grooves with kick and bass already built into the module. So it also has a separate module featuring just the bass, but let's take a look at track 1, kick and bass first. So one of the things I really love about this plugin is how customizable it is. So you can choose from different sample sources, so whether that is wavetable or noise or sample. You can tweak those sounds with the onboard effects, and there are so many great starting points also from the onboard library. What's particularly great about this is that you can also change the tuning, so that way you can ensure that your 808s, for example, are always in tune. So here you can choose the number of steps and also change the velocity. And then when it comes to programming your bass patterns, you can also change the pitch to start creating some melodies too. However, if I just wanted to program in these patterns myself rather than using the sequencer, I can click on the MIDI icon, and that way I can start programming them in via MIDI, or I can start playing in some melodies and kick patterns. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just selecting the kick sound from track 1 and layering it up with another kick. And I'm using a bass sound from the track 1 bass module because I really like this kind of slap bass. And I thought it really fit with the kind of laid back groove of the track, so that's the sound I am choosing for this. I am also adding some more drum sounds using 40's very own drum samples, and also a few samples from the Bazazian expansion, as well as a few that I just had on my computer. So this is how all of that ended up sounding. Let's just take a closer look at those bass and drum sounds, because I've used some additional processing here to help me achieve that sound. So for drums and for bass, I've used Neutron for elements, and I really like automated tools like this when I'm just trying to get ideas down and I don't want to be spending too much time on the mix. I just want to get a good enough sound to help me keep the kind of creative flow going. And this is really great because it will immediately identify the instrument that I'm using and provide a processing chain that I can then tweak to my liking. So for example, with drums, I've added some extra width. With the bass, I've also added some saturation, etc. Neutron 4 Elements is now also integrated with Audio Lens. So Audio Lens can help me capture references from anywhere on my computer, be it a streaming service or any audio files that I have on my hard drive, and I can save these references and then pull them up in Neutron 4 Elements, and then Neutron 4 Elements will match the EQ curve of my references. Now, with the drums, I also used the Dirt plugin from the Saturation Bundle by Native Instruments just to crush and saturate my drums, and I really liked the sound effect that it created. I also used Neoverb to help me craft that perfect drum space. I put it on my drum bus and sent some of my drum elements to it. I really like Neoverb because of the blend of 3 different reverbs that are fully customizable, so I can, again, be really specific about the type of sound that I want to achieve. It also has pre-EQ and post-EQ already built into the plugin, and of course it has the assistant tool as well, as many of iZotope plugins do, which can help you create a perfect starting point for crafting your reverb sound just by setting up a few preferences. Now, I'm also bringing in Stutter Edit here because I wanted to do something a little bit different with my hi-hat. So I'm using Stutter Edit on auto mode because I want it to be played whenever the hi-hats are present. And I'm mixing it in with my original hi-hat sound, and this is what it sounded like. Okay, so we have some initial chords, we have the bass and the drum sounds. Let's explore a few other melodic elements into this track. Next, I'm using Feel It from Native Instruments. So one of the things I really love about the Play Series instruments is the dice roll functionality, which means you can just roll the dice for some instant inspiration, and it will give you randomized presets that you can then, of course, tweak to your liking. So with Feel It instruments, it will blend 2 different samples or sounds together, and it's really great for creating multidimensional instrument sounds that already sound great. Plus, you can customize them further with the onboard effects and sequencer as well. So I had this strings melody kind of playing in my head as I listened to the drums and the chords, so I played that in. I really like the detuned tail of this sound as well, and I really thought it just complemented the groove of the track. Then I used the dice roll option, and I think this was one of the first or the second presets that it gave me, and I really liked it. You'll notice that I've left a little bit of space in the beat, and that's because I wanted to add some additional chords there. So adding these chords from Feel It keys just kind of filled that space and switched up the track a little bit, adding a little bit of ear candy here and there. And I really wanted these keys to sound really great on their own and have more of a personality and presence. So I also used the Byte plugin from the Saturation Bundle, and I applied the hi-hat remover preset on these, and it completely transformed the sound of my keys. So just take a listen to the before and after. I really love how this completely switched up the sound. And then last but not least, from Feel It selection, I added some pad sounds in the background and then just reversed them in Logic to just give it a bit of an ambient layer. Next, let's take a look at Utopia instruments. So there's, again, a lot of really powerful instrument options, and I really love the sequencer in Utopia. So it's great for many different arpeggiated sounds, and they would fit so many different genres. Again, I can roll the dice with some presets, or I can browse the library and customize my presets further. So I added this plucky little chord which I programmed in via the sequencer for just a little bit of ear candy and an accent kind of sound. And I really like this air attack sound as well, so I added this in both for impact sounds, and then later on I left more space for it to turn into a melody. And I tweaked it further using the Freak from Saturation bundle. So this is quite a subtle effect on this occasion, but again, you can use it in a very transformative way too. So just take a listen to a few other effects that it can produce. Last but not least, I am adding Technique instrument from Utopia just for some plucks towards the end. I scooped out a lot of the low end from it so it doesn't clash with my bass sounds and adds a little bit more movement and just an additional melody that I'm bringing in at the end. And there you have it. This is how easy it was to take this one very basic vocal sample that didn't sound like much to begin with and take inspiration from that and turn it into something that has really taken shape now. And I've really enjoyed making it, and I think I'm going to finish this as well. I hope this has inspired you to also develop and finish your creative ideas. Having tools at your disposal that make it so easy and quick to make those creative decisions and spark some inspiration is so helpful. So within seconds, I could find instruments that I could use, and the creative effects really helped me to come up with some inspiration and also some interesting sounds for this track. Don't forget the iZotope Creative Mix Bundle, Native Instruments Electronic Dance Bundle, and Native Instruments Saturation Bundle are all now on sale at just $49 each. Thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe for more mixing and production tips and tricks.